7 days. 7 damn days after the judge signed our divorce papers, my ex-wife Linda stood at the front of a church hall in Dayton, Ohio, in a white lace dress about to say, "I do to her perfect man." I was sitting at a round plastic table near the back at the VFW post attached to the hall, nursing a Bud Light in a thin plastic cup. Somebody had just loaded Sweet Caroline on the jukebox. Folks were half singing, half talking over it, the room buzzing with that cheap wedding noise you get in small-town Ohio. Then the groom walked in. I saw his face and I laughed so hard I damn near choked beer through my nose. Linda's new perfect man wasn't some doctor or big shot from Columbus. 3 years earlier, I had personally sold that same son of a bitch 3 junk cars with washed Kentucky titles right before the state shut his crooked used car lot down for good. And now he was wearing a rented tux and a white rose walking toward my ex-wife like he just stepped out of a commercial. That's where the story really starts. My name is Mark Ellison. I'm 58, born and raised right here in Dayton. I've worked at the same auto parts warehouse off Route 35 for just over 30 years. Not fancy work, but honest. It paid the mortgage and kept the furnace running through a lot of winters. Linda and I were married for 32 of those years. If you'd asked me a while back what my life would look like at 58, I would have said something simple. Work my shifts. Watch the Bengals on Sunday. Grill burgers on the back deck. I didn't picture a judge in Montgomery County sliding divorce papers across a desk on a Tuesday morning, and my ex-wife getting remarried 1 week later at a VFW hall 2 miles from the house I spent half my life paying off. Linda started changing a couple years before the divorce. Little comments at first. "You're really just okay with this," she'd say, waving a hand around our kitchen. "The same house, the same job, the same truck." "What's wrong with the same?" I'd ask. "Roof doesn't leak, truck still runs, bills are paid." She'd sigh, put on that deep red lipstick from when we renewed our vows in '98. "You just don't want more, Mark." I thought more meant seeing our daughter Katie graduate, maybe helping her with a down payment someday. I thought it meant getting the house paid off before I turned 65. Apparently to Linda, more meant cologne you could smell from across the room and pictures under bright lot lights with the caption, "New inventory in." The day she told me she wanted a divorce, she was standing in our kitchen leaning on the same counter where we used to set Katie's birthday cakes. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I need a man with ambition." "I've worked overtime for 20 years, I said. "Put a new roof on this place myself." "You don't get it," she said, shaking her head. "You're comfortable. I'm not." There wasn't a big screaming match, just a long silence and a feeling in my chest like someone had opened a window in January and never closed it. The divorce moved quick. One day I was carrying my work thermos back into the house. The next I was loading boxes into the back of my Silverado, leaving half my clothes in the closet because I didn't have the heart to argue over hangers. She kept the house. I took my truck, my pension, and my tools, and the old recliner with the broken handle. A week after the judge signed, I was heating up canned chili in my little rented duplex when Katie called. "Dad," she said, "Mom's getting married next Saturday." To who, I asked. "She finds some prints down at Kroger. She says he's a businessman, owns a dealership, says he's on her level." "That was fast," I said. "She wants you there," Katie said. "For me, please, Dad." So I went. I put on my best jeans, the good boots, and the sport coat Linda bought me back when we still got invited to Christmas parties. I walked into that church hall turned reception room and smelled the same things I've smelled at every working class wedding since 1985, cheap beer canned ham potato salad that's been sitting out too long, and a cloud of brute cologne hanging over everything like fog. Linda looked pretty. Same shade of red lipstick from '98, same necklace her mother left her. Different man waiting at the front. And when that man finally walked in, straightening his tie, trying to look important under those buzzing fluorescent lights, I realized I knew him better than Linda ever would. Because before he ever put on that tux, before he ever called himself a businessman, I'd seen him on a cracked asphalt lot by the highway, rolling back odometers and smiling with the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. That's when I started laughing. And that's when I knew I wasn't just going to sit there and watch my ex-wife marry a crook. I was going to let the truth walk through the door right behind him. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand exactly who that man was and why seeing him at the altar with my ex-wife felt like watching someone strike a match inside a fireworks warehouse. His name was Gavin Rourke, and 3 years before that wedding day, he was standing on a gravel lot off Highway 68, trying to sell rusted-out junkers to anyone desperate enough to believe his stories. Back then, I wasn't buying cars from him, I was selling them to him. I'd pick up old trade-ins from a buddy who worked at a tow yard. Cars the dealership didn't even want to bother processing, blown transmissions, slipping timing chains, frames rusted so thin you could poke a finger through. I'd haul them out there to Gavin's lot because he always paid in cash, never asked many questions, and didn't care if the radiator was zip-tied to the frame. He'd walk around each car with a cigarette dangling from his lip, tapping the odometer like he was checking a melon for ripeness. "I can work with this," he'd say, even when the engine was knocking so loud you could hear it over traffic. "Give me a week. Buyers eat this stuff up." "Buyers," I'd ask, "you mean victims?" He'd laugh a dry laugh with no warmth. Don't judge a man for knowing the market, Mark. That was Gavin's slick hair, cheap shoes, and a smile that felt like a warning sign. A few months after he bought those last 3 junkers from me, the state of Ohio shut his operation down. Something about title washing across state lines, fraudulent VIN transfers, odometer tampering, all the usual hits on a crooked dealer's greatest hits album. He ended up with a felony conviction and 5 years where he wasn't allowed to buy, sell, or broker motor vehicles. Last I heard, he'd fled to Kentucky for a while. Then he vanished. Until he walked into that wedding hall. Seeing him in that tux felt like seeing a raccoon wearing a necktie wrong, in a way your brain can't fully process at first. But it wasn't Gavin's presence that hit me hardest. It was what Linda had done. Because the night before the ceremony, while dropping off some flowers, Katie overheard Linda bragging to her friends. "He's so responsible. He insisted we put both our names on the deed. Said it's how real partners build a future." When Katie told me that, it was like someone grabbed the back of my neck and squeezed. The deed. My house. The house I worked double shifts for. The house where I patched the roof myself during the blizzard of '09. The house where Katie drew her height marks on the kitchen door frame, tiny pencil lines stretching from age 5 all the way through 16. That house still has those marks, Katie asked me on the phone. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Mom said she was thinking of painting over them," she added. "She said they're just scratches." I had to sit down. To Linda, the memories etched into that house were scratches. To Gavin, the house was a target. And to me, it was 20 years of calloused hands, overtime hours, furnace repairs, and nights helping Katie with math homework at the kitchen table. In that moment, any leftover softness I had about Linda evaporated. I wasn't angry she'd moved on. I wasn't even angry she remarried so fast. I was angry she handed a crook the keys to the house our daughter grew up in. So when Gavin strutted into that hall, shoulders back, slick grin on his face, pretending he was the king of Montgomery County, something in me snapped into perfect clarity. This wasn't about jealousy. This wasn't about pride. It wasn't even about the divorce. It was about justice, the kind that comes slow and steady, like a long winter finally breaking. The ceremony began, and I sat there silent, letting it all sink in. The pastor was talking about love and second chances. The guests were whispering. Someone's toddler was playing with a balloon behind me. Linda kept smoothing the front of her dress, glowing like she'd won some kind of prize. And Gavin kept shifting in his tux, tugging at the collar like he wasn't used to wearing clothes without oil stains on them. I leaned back in my chair, took a slow sip of Bud Light, and for the first time in months I felt completely calm. Because I didn't have to expose him. He had already exposed himself. All I had to do was give the truth a gentle nudge. Ray was the one who gave me the nudge. If you've never sat in a VFW bar on a Tuesday night with a retired deputy sheriff, let me tell you the truth, it's different when it comes in a low voice across a sticky counter between 2 old men who've lived long enough to know how the world actually works. It was the night after the wedding. I was back at the VFW because my rented duplex felt too empty, and the bartender Sheila pours beer like she's trying to win an award. Ray slid onto the stool next to me, easing his bad knee down with a grunt. "Heard you were at Linda's wedding," he said. I took a drink. "Yep." "How was it?" I looked at him. He looked back. We both laughed like idiots. "Say no more," he said. "Heard about the groom too. That true?" "Oh yeah," I said. Gavin Rourke, Kentucky title washer, walked right into the church like God himself invited him. Ray let out a whistle. That boy shouldn't be within 10 feet of a car lot or a legal document. Funny you say that, I said. He signed one yesterday. The hall rental contract. Ray's eyebrows lifted. Signed as what? Check the box, no criminal record. Got himself a public service worker discount too. Ray blinked slowly the way cops do when they're looking at a slow-motion train wreck. Well, hell, he said softly. That's perjury, straight up. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He grabbed my beer, slid it back to me, then leaned in. Mark, he said, you don't gotta get fancy. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need court. You don't even need drama. He tapped the counter 3 times with his knuckle. You just need 3 pieces of paper and a certified mail receipt. I stared at him. 3 pieces of paper. Hell yes, Ray said. Listen. He raised one finger. First piece, Gavin's felony fraud judgment from 2019. He tilted his head. Still online, still public, still embarrassing. He raised a second finger. Second, the VFW hall rental form he signed last week. The one where he checked no criminal record. The one where he lied to get a discount meant for real vets and real cops. He raised a third finger. Third is probation officer's name and direct number. Ray smirked. Columbus office. They hate paperwork lies. Hate 'em. I looked at him. That's it. He nodded. 3 pieces of paper and a phone call. 5 minutes. 10 if Sheila distracts you with free pretzels. I laughed, but Ray didn't. He locked eyes with me, that old deputy stare that could quiet a whole bar. You're not hurting him, Mark. You're not setting him up. Hell, the idiot did all this on his own. You're just helping the system along. Those last words hit me like a seatbelt tightening. Helping the system along. That's all it would take. So, the next morning before work, I drove to the Dayton Public Library. Sat down at one of those old computers where the keyboard feels like typing on a brick. I printed out the felony judgment, 3 pages, black and white, Gavin's signature right there at the bottom. Odometer tampering, title fraud, prohibited business activities. A real resume builder. Then I drove back to the VFW hall, walked up to the front desk and asked for a copy of the rental contract. The manager, a Vietnam vet named Harris, handed it over without blinking. Guy creeped me out, he said. Glad someone's doing something. There was Gavin's name written in messy cursive and a little check mark next to no criminal convictions in the last 10 years. I stood there staring at it like I was looking at a gift from heaven. Last stop, Ray's place. He opened the door holding a mug of black coffee and reading glasses perched on his forehead. You get it all, he asked. I held up the stack of papers. Good, Ray said. Now sit down, we're making a call. He dialed the number from memory. This is Officer Wilcox, a voice answered. Wilcox, Ray said, this is Raymond Carter, retired deputy out of Montgomery County. I got a resident here with information regarding one of your probationers. You're going to want to hear this. Ray handed me the phone. This is Mark Ellison, I said. Are you supervising a man named Gavin Rourke? He paused, then, unfortunately, yes. What's going on? I told him, slow, clear, factual, no emotion. Just the truth lined up like tools on a workbench. At the end, Wilcox exhaled through his teeth. He signed what? He checked the box, no criminal record, I said, to get a price cut on a hall rental. That's perjury, Wilcox said, voice tightening, and a direct violation of his probation terms. Mr. Ellison, thank you. We'll take it from here. He hung up. Ray took the phone from me, nodded once satisfied. That's that, he said. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something loosen inside my chest. Not revenge. Not anger. Just a simple, steady sense of balance returning to the world. Like gravity had finally kicked back in. I didn't have to wait long. News in a town like Dayton doesn't travel fast. It travels instantly. Especially when the sheriff's department decides to pay someone a visit at a public event. Linda and Gavin scheduled a second reception the following Saturday, a celebration for friends who couldn't make the ceremony. Same church hall, same VFW post attached, same folding tables, same crock pots plugged into the same wall outlets that always look like they're about to spark. Katie asked if I'd go. Just to be civil, she said. Mom's embarrassed. She won't say it, but she wants you there. I told her I'd think about it. But truth was, I'd already decided to go. Not to rub anything in, not to make a scene. Just to be present when the truth finally walked through the door. By 6 o'clock, the hall was packed. folks from Linda's church group, neighbors from her new subdivision, a few co-workers Gavin must have bribed with free oil changes. The smell was the same as the week before canned beer cologne and a hint of something burnt from the kitchen. Someone loaded the jukebox. Sweet Caroline again, because of course. People clapped along, smacking tabletops on the ba-ba-ba. I sat near the back with a cold Bud Light watching Gavin make his rounds. He wasn't just dressed up, he was performing. Laughing too loud, slapping guys on the back, kissing Linda's hand like he'd seen it in a movie once, talking about big business deals coming down the pipeline and new inventory arriving any day now. He pointed at his watch, a huge gold monstrosity. "Pick this up in Cincinnati," he said to a group of guys. "Real gold-plated. A man's got to look successful, you know." One of the guys nodded politely, but his wife rolled her eyes so hard I heard it. Linda floated around the room like a hostess at a country club. She kept glancing at me from across the hall, not angry, not smug, just uneasy, like she sensed something was coming, but couldn't name it. By 7 o'clock, people were settling into their seats with plates of cold pasta salad. Gavin grabbed the microphone from the DJ table and tapped it twice. "Evening, folks," he shouted. The echo was awful. Half the room winced. "I just want to thank you all for being here to celebrate our new life together. Linda and I have been blessed, truly blessed, and big things are ahead for us. New business ventures, new opportunities." He kept going and going and going. I checked my watch. Sheriff's office was never early, but they were never late. Gavin launched into another brag about expanding into luxury resale vehicles, whatever that meant, when suddenly the jukebox cut out. Not faded, not paused, stopped, dead, right in the middle of ba ba ba. The entire room froze. Forks hanging midair, people mid-chew, kids mid-squabble. Then the sound of heavy boots on tile. 3 men walked in through the main doors, 2 sheriff's deputies in brown uniforms, and 1 man in a gray shirt with a county badge clipped to his belt. Gavin kept smiling, not fully processing what he was seeing. "Evening, officers," he said into the mic, trying to make it sound like a joke. "Hope you're here for the food." They weren't. The man in gray unfolded a piece of paper and cleared his throat. "Is there a Mr. Gavin Rourke present?" The room turned as one, like a field of sunflowers following the sun. Gavin blinked. "That's me. What's this about?" The county officer stepped forward. "Mr. Rourke, we are here regarding a formal violation of your active probation terms. Specifically a signed document submitted on January 14th at approximately 4:32 p.m. in which you certified under penalty of perjury that you had no felony convictions in the past 10 years. You could have dropped a fork and heard it hit the linoleum." The officer continued, "Would you like to revise that statement in front of the 50 assembled witnesses?" A ripple went through the crowd, gasps, whispers, one woman muttering, "Oh Lord," under her breath. Gavin's face turned the color of week-old ham. This has to be a mistake," he stammered. "Linda, tell them." Linda looked like someone had unplugged her brain. A deputy stepped forward and gently took Gavin's arm. "Sir, we need you to come with us." That's when Gavin snapped. He twisted, pointed straight past the tables, past the guests, and jabbed his finger toward the back of the room. "Straight at me." "This is Mark," he roared. "He set me up. This is all him." Every head turned. I stood up calmly, set my beer down, and walked forward until I stood 10 feet from him. He was sweating through his tux. His face was red. His lips were shaking. His whole life was collapsing in front of an audience. And he needed someone to blame. But I wasn't going to let him rewrite the story. I looked right into his eyes, steady, quiet, and said, "Gavin, I didn't set you up. You set yourself up every time you signed your own name." A murmur swept the room. One of the deputies nodded slowly, like he appreciated the line. Gavin tried to lunge toward me, but the deputies tightened their grip. And just like that, they walked him out the door, past the tables, past the guests, past the half-eaten ham slices and cold macaroni salad, straight into the back of a waiting cruiser. The door shut with a loud final clunk. Silence. Then Linda sank into a chair, covering her face with both hands. Katie rushed to my side, grabbed my arm, and whispered, "Dad, thank you." But I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel proud. I felt done. Like a long, messy chapter of my life had just closed itself. Not with yelling. Not with revenge. Just with the truth finally catching up to the man who'd been running from it for years. 4 days after the blow-up at the church hall, I found myself standing in front of the old house again, the one I'd built my life inside for more than 2 decades. The house Linda had tried to hand over to a felon without even blinking. Funny thing about life sometimes, the doors that close on you end up opening back again in ways you never expect. The lien Gavin caused from signing that hall rental form and lying on it jammed up Linda's refinancing paperwork so badly that the bank contacted me directly. I still had partial rights tied to the old mortgage, so they needed my signature to straighten things out. And when the dust settled, the bank manager, a guy I'd known since Little League, told me I was welcome to stop by the property while they resolved the mess. Just don't take anything, he said, chuckling. And don't fix anything. Lawyers hate that. So there I was on a Thursday afternoon mowing the front lawn of the house I used to call mine. The smell of cut grass hit me like a memory. The sun was warm on my back. My boots sank into the same ground where I'd planted tulips for Linda's birthday one year. Same sidewalk chalk stains from when Katie was 8. Same dent in the garage door where I misjudged the truck by 1 inch. It all came back. Katie pulled up 20 minutes later, parking her little Honda by the curb. She grabbed 2 plastic cups out of her drink holder sweet teas from the McDonald's drive-thru, just like she used to bring me when she was 10. Figured you might be thirsty, she said, walking up the driveway. Always, I said, cutting the mower engine. She handed me 1 cup, then stood beside me in the silence, looking at the house like she was seeing it for the first time. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Better than I've been in a while. We walked inside together. The house felt empty in a way that wasn't sad, just peaceful. No shouting, no tension, no Gavin stink in the air. We wandered into the kitchen, and she saw them. The little pencil marks on the doorframe. A faint row of lines, age 5, 8, 12, 16. Her childhood right there in fading graphite. She reached up and touched them lightly. I thought Mom painted over these, she whispered. She tried, I said. I stopped her once. Katie smiled a soft one, then looked at me with eyes that had grown older and kinder in the past year. Dad, she said quietly, some things are worth fighting for, even when nobody's watching. I didn't teach her that. Life did. We sat on the back steps drinking sweet tea, listening to the summer insects buzz in the yard. No drama, no chaos. Just 2 people who had survived a storm they never planned for. Linda never apologized. She called me once not to say sorry, but to ask if I could explain how to undo the mess Gavin left behind. The lien, the bank notices, the sudden freeze on her accounts. I told her she'd have to figure it out with the bank. Not because I was angry, but because some lessons aren't meant to be cushioned. Sometimes the only way people learn what they threw away is by sitting in the empty space where it used to be. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't resentful. I was free. Later that week, I went back to the VFW. Same bar stool, same neon beer signs, same sticky counter. Ray was there nursing a Coors. He looked at me squinting like he was reading the truth off my face. You okay, Mark? He asked. I sat down beside him, letting the chair creak under my weight. Yeah, I said, I think I am. He nodded once, a slow, proud nod, and lifted his beer. You did good, Mark. Real good. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. Then I lifted mine too. Not to celebrate Gavin's downfall. Not to celebrate Linda's choices. Just to toast the strange way life evens things out when you stop trying to force it. There's a special kind of peace you feel at 58 when you've lived enough life to know that revenge doesn't require fire or fury. Sometimes all you need to do is stand still and let a man drown in the lies he signed himself. And if you've ever watched someone dig their own grave with a pen while you held the map they forgot they gave you, well, you probably understand this story better than most. Feel free to share your own in the comments. I read every single one. This channel's for us, the folks who've lived long enough to see the bill come due.